Hey guys, welcome back to etlqalabs. In this session, we will look at ETL testers rules and responsibilities. Yeah. So what exactly as a ETL tester or as a ETL QA engineers, what he does on day-to-day basis, and what is his primary roles and responsibility when it comes to testing. Yeah. So what we will do is we will try to just recap, what is the, because the tester is not independent, right? So tester is also a part of the team. I would say the software development life cycle part of, that's a process, entire life cycle for developing any software, and the testing is also as part of that, right? So what we will try to do is we'll try to understand little bit about the waterfall model that used to that was the development model. I think if I'm not wrong, I think 10 years before there was a model that was called waterfall model, and then now everything is agile. We will touch base about that development part, and then after that we will try to understand what is the roles of ETL tester right now. All right, as part of agile methodology, right? So when it comes to testing roles as a ETL tester roles and responsibility, it's not really different in waterfall model and agile. You are actually going to do pretty much the same thing, but only thing is the time, and then timing for the testing, and then some other dynamics related to work culture has shifted. That's it, really. Yeah, but there is nothing different. What kind of test as a ETL tester we used to run before and now, it's pretty much same thing, guys. Okay, so let's try to do one thing. Let's try to see that. Okay, so previously in waterfall model, what we do, guys, we used to have normally, the phases of software development life cycle, like requirement phase, design phase, and then we used to have development phase, our coding phase also we call, right, and then testing phase finally, and after that the deployment phase, etc., right? So those were the typical the phases of the software life cycle in waterfall model. And another thing about the waterfall model was that until you complete one of the phase, you cannot really move to the next phase. So for example, until you complete all the requirement phase, requirement analysis, you make sure the requirements are complete, there is no ambiguity, and you get the 100% requirement, everything is frozen, then only you can move to design phase, right? And until you complete all the design, everything in place, you cannot really move to the coding, right? So that was one of the challenge, I think, in before. And that was and as a result of it, there was a agile methodology come, right? So as part of agile, I think it is very important right now that we understand that why the agile came. So agile was born because of to fill all this shortcoming that was there in the waterfall model. So in waterfall model, everything used to move step by step, right? And then what happened? Let's say there is a project duration for, let's say, 5 months. Yeah, in 5 months, customer wants something to be delivered, right? And then what used to happen is, let's say requirement phase, you actually divide, I will work on the requirement phase as part of estimation, right? 1 month requirement, 1 month design, 1 month development, 1 month testing, and 1 month for UAT, etc. So 5 months is gone, and then finally you will get the product development done, right? So what used to happen is, let's say while you are actually doing the requirement phase, you are done with the requirement, and you are already moved to design phase. Design phase is also completed. Development is already in progress. It's on midway, let's say. And then all of a sudden, you remember, or there is a business requirement that has pop in, right? And then you really are not in position to accommodate that, because you already moved to this phase, already development phase, right? Any kind of changes introduced in the requirement phase will have a high cost on it, right? Which means again we have to go back to requirement phase, again we have to put the timing, the same timing, and then again design phase, and again you have to come back to development phase. So this was kind of time consuming process, and hence there was a need that so that we can remove all this kind of issues going forward, and then hence Agile came into picture. So in Agile, what we do is everything happens in parallel, even requirement, design, development, testing, and then even the deployment, right? So what we do is in Agile, we do a sprint of normally 2 weeks sprint, which means within that 2 weeks, we will get one working product ready and delivered to the customer, right? Shippable product to the customer, and customer can actually look at it, and then he can also provide a feedback on it, right? So that was the I mean, this is really nice, isn't it? So here we were actually the customer was actually getting after 5 months, but here you see that the part of the functionality, right, he is actually getting within 2 weeks, right? So this is really very fast process, and then hence the customer is also going to provide his feedback so fast, and then you can again accommodate that, and then you so you know what do basically we do is the whole requirement, whatever requirement we get, right, the whole requirement is basically segregated or separated into multiple sprint. A sprint is basically a cycle of release, right? So 2 week cycle normally we put. A sprint is of 2 weeks duration, and then some of the requirements will go into that 2 week cycle, and then in that very same sprint, there will be development team, there will be testing team, there will be the scrum master, everyone will be there, right? So what will happen is it's very agile. Why agile? Because everyone is working so close, and every day you will get a task for yourself to do, right? So for example, if we have, let's say I want to develop few of the features or few of the requirements. For that requirement, let's say I have 5 requirements. So what developer will do, developer will start working on a particular requirement. Let's say, okay, he starts coding, and while the developer is coding, the tester will start writing the test case. Yeah. And once the tester starts writing the test case, and then developer, release the code. All right. Release the code into for the testing, and tester starts testing it, right? Developer will pick up the another story. Story is basically the requirement, right? He will pick up another story for coding it, and at the same time the tester can write the test cases for that, right? So when the product is ready for the testing, the tester is immediately can pick it, and he can also perform the testing. So this is how the agile model works, right, guys? I think you might be already aware of it. I just wanted to have a recap on it, right? So now coming back to ETL testing role, right? So testers role. So in terms of testers role, nothing different as I said, right? So what tester has to do is basically only thing is the involvement in agile methodology is a little more for the testing, right? Which means the testers are getting more visibility in agile methodology, because they are very integral part of the team, and they play a very big role. And other thing is also, guys, the testers are not kind of treated like a manual tester nowadays, because in Agile every team member is having the same capability, and is expected to do any kind of work. It's not only testing. Sometimes testers might be needed to do some analysis also, right? So out of box also they might have to do some time, right? So in this case, the testing role, ETL testers roles is getting widened day by day, right? And hence, it's very important that we understand what we do as part of ETL testing role in this kind of models, right? So let's see that. So this was little background, because I thought that if I provide you some background, you will be also able to understand, right? And then now let's talk about the ETL testers role, right? So as what I will do is I will just try to divide all this in the phase wise, yeah, right? So it is the agile model. These phases are definitely there, right? It's a within that they will not call it very different name or something, but then so for example, requirement analysis, right? So somebody has to put in the requirement, the user stories into Jira, right? And or any other test management tool, wherever, or any other requirement management tool, for example. So those requirements has to be put in, and those requirements has to be analyzed, finalized, etc. Everything happens, right, guys? There is nothing different that we are skipping any kind of this phases, they are all together tightly coupled. Okay, it's just that they are not very they are not distinguished right now as it was in waterfall model, because this was a separate phase for each of them. Now everything is clubbed together, so you cannot really see a lot of differences that design phase, the development phase, and all those things. It is happening parallelly together, right? But yeah, this phases are still there, guys, right? So what happens is when the tester's role in the requirement phase is basically what he does is the testers basically look at the mapping document, the ETL mapping document, and he will, just perform, some kind of checks whether, the feasibility analysis also. Yeah. So he will look at that mapping document, whether each of the source and target and in between the transformations are properly only written. Yeah. And there is no confusion, there is no ambiguity around it, right? So he want to analyze that, and he want to make sure that there is no ambiguity in the document. If there is any issue with the document that he feels that there is some need some clarity, he will obviously go back to business, or he can additionally go back to business. Normally he will go to business analyst, because business analyst is the part of the team, right? And then business analyst internally will interact to the business, right, who has given the requirement, isn't it? So this is how it happens. And then at the same time, during that point of time, when the requirement analysis phase is there, when the developers and other team members are actually finalizing the requirement, that point of time, based on his understanding, tester will also create a test strategy and test planning, right? How and what basically need to be tested, etc. So that also need to be agreed and tested. I will say ETL testing strategy and test planning sign off. Yeah. So this also has to be signed off together. Yeah. With when the requirement is done, right? At that point of time, you have little understanding around it. Yeah. It can be, it cannot be the final one, but definitely the draft version of the test strategy document or test planning document. Okay. Now the next phase is the design phase. So design phase, what developers will do, developers will try to create some sort of design for that particular requirement, right? In that phase, the most of the things that tester will do, he will create the ETL test scenario identification, right? So he will basically go and try to find out what are the high level test scenarios that he need to execute as part of this, because he already know the requirement right now. Yeah, because he has already written the test strategy, everything. Now he already know that what is the requirement and what kind of testing is needed for this particular ETL product, or the ETL jobs, right? Set up jobs. So he will. So these are the few of the high level scenarios. Normally, it may all be applicable. It may not be applicable. Everything, but roughly these are the scenarios for the ETL testing, right? The test scenarios for high level. So one is the data completeness check. Second one, data completeness checks. Basically, it includes checksum, or it can be the row count, and duplicate checks, etc. And then field mapping checks, right? So field level mapping checks will include the mapping document having the source and target. In between, how the one of the one field from the source and target, how it is moving, right? And so there should be a mapping, right? So that mapping need to be verified, whether it has the correct meaning, correct naming convention for that particular column from source until target or not, or if there is any difference, then we have to look at that. It should be based on your mapping document as well, right? So mapping document is the bible for any tester, right? That is the ETL tester. Mapping document describes everything about the ETL process that is there, right? Now the data transformation is very very core and important part of checks that need to be done. And then as part of data transformations, basically we need to consider all the transformations, whether update strategy, source qualifier, filter, shorter, router, any kind of transformations, right? So that is part of your job, has to be verified, right? So this is what the data transformation checks that we have to look at, and this is the major part of it, guys, right? Because this is only this is the one which is basically doing the transformation, right? So in ETL, extract, transform, and load. So these are the checks which are basically responsible to transform the data from the source to target, right? Whatever is needed as per the business requirement. All right. And then the one fourth check that we will do is the target level check, target table checks, right? So in the target table checks, what we do is normally we will verify the whether the primary key is there on the particular table, or we have already defined some not null constructs, etc. All those things we have to look at, indexes, etc. Which because of performance issues and other things, all those things we have to verify, and this should be with this everything should be in conformance to the what do you say, the data model, right? So dimensional modeling that you do, fact and dimension, and that document should basically state all these tables and all these different constants are the database objects, right? Primary key, foreign key, surrogate key, etc., etc. Everything should be there, right? And this is very important, and you should write all those test cases based on that document, right? The dimensional modeling document. And the last one, it is not something that every ETL testers do, but obviously the good ETL tester will also look at the performance test, right? So performance test, what he will do is as part of the performance, he will basically check that how much time the job is taking to load the data, right? And the size of the data, how much exactly he is pushing it, and that particular the performance benchmark, he need to capture it, right? Based on how much it is taking time, throughput, response time, etc. Everything has to be captured, right? So this is really very important, and every tester must include in his test, in his or her test. All right. So these are the few things that as part of design phase the tester has to do, and then after that what will needed to do is he need to actually get the test scenario sign off, approval from the business, that I have included all this, I am planning to include all this high level test scenario. You let us know whether these are okay with you, or you want any additional or any removal from this particular set of the test scenarios, right? And then business will say okay, or he will probably give the sign off, right? Are based on the feedback or whatever, right? So this is what the design phase. So this is the responsibility of the tester in the design phase, all right? And now what we will see is we will look at the development phase. So the once the development is uh, started for that particular ETL jobs by the developer, then ETL tester, what ETL tester is going to do, he is going to actually prepare the detailed test cases, yeah, test case preparation, covering the following in the review. So what I say is, all are this the scenario, the test scenarios, and based on these scenarios he will start writing the test cases, basically the detail level test cases. For example, he will go for the mapping document and he will check for the transformation. He might find 10 or 15 transformations. For each of this transformation he will write the SQL query between source, target, and staging, right? And all those test cases has to be captured, and has to be after that it has to be reviewed by the BAs. Yeah, BA has to review it and provide a sign off whether these are correct, or if there is anything additional needed or anything is not needed, etc., etc. All right. And then once the approval is done, the tester will actually go and upload the test cases into Jira or any other test management tool, for example ALM, application lifecycle management, yeah, ALM, and then Spira team, there is another tools also, right? There are various tools, guys, so don't worry about that. I think you can use whatever is comfortable, but most of the team is using the Jira for the agile projects basically. So upload the test cases into test management tool, and then that's all done from the testing side for the until the development phase, right? So once the development phase is completed and the product is ready for testing, let's say the ETL job is ready for testing, the developers will say, hey, you can start the testing now, it's ready, right? Now it's official testing, right? So until this point of time, until development, the tester was basically not executing anything, right? The tester was basically writing and creating all this, documentation, understanding, and SQL query, etc. He was actually framing everything and making sure that everything is ready. Now, once real SIT starts after the coding is completed or the development is completed, the tester will start executing those test cases which he has already uploaded on the test case here, right, in the test management tool. He will go and he will execute each and every test case whichever are part of that particular development job or the ETL job, and he will see that if there is any failure he will raise a defect. Okay, so once he raise a defect, I think guys, for defect raising, I think on defect life cycle I might create one video for you. I think there I will clarify. So what he will do is, if find any defect, he will create a defect or bug, right? Both are the same thing. And then his responsibility in the SIT phase is also that he reports the daily status report to all the stakeholders which are related, and also getting the sign off for the testing, right? That the testing is completed. So this cycle is for 2 weeks, it is completed, then he will get the sign off. Okay, these are the testing I have done, and these are the defects, etc., closure, everything, right? And then test closure and test documentation will happen in the Jira itself. So basically, as part of the test closure, the Jira, test cases which are already uploaded has to be executed, and they has to be passed, failed, whatever status it may be, and then also the test artifacts has to be attached with those test cases, and this is what the test closure and test documentation. So now the SIT phase is also completed, let's say, and tester is done with his testing, right? Officially, the SIT testing means system integration testing is completed. Now, the next testing that will happen is the UAT testing, guys. UAT testing is normally, it's called user acceptance testing, and it is not normally done by the tester or the technical person. It is normally done by the business users, right? Now what will happen is the testers are still not free from his responsibility. He is still needed to support the UAT testers, UAT users, right? Because UAT users might not know how to upload the test cases in Jira, etc. So there will be a set of UAT test cases that the UAT users might be running, and they might need your help to document on the Jira for them, basically, and they will provide all the evidence for the testing and everything. You have to go and attach everything in the Jira, and then you have to make sure you're documenting and you are helping them, right, with regards to documentation of the UAT test cases, because UAT test cases are also part of the entire life cycle, and until it goes to production, and also after production also, guys, there will be audit happening in the organization, and those UAT test cases and test evidence, etc., is needed as part of audit that will happen, right? So that is what the tester's role in UAT. And UAT, and also sometime, the users, the UAT users, they are normally non-technical people. They are basically from the business. They know business, but they do not know technology. So sometime, if you are basically trying to do some bit of reconciliation in your ETL, let's say you have two feed and you want to just reconcile this, want to get how much is matching, how much is not matching, etc., and they might need your help, to run those and provide the results to them, so that they can do the analysis on that particular part, because the data is in huge and they really do not have any tool to do the reconciliation. So they might need that kind of technical support also, guys, in UAT phase. So this is roughly, I would say, the ETL testers role in the entire ETL process, guys. I hope that this video gets you more clarification and more clarity around ETL testers jobs and roles responsibility. And if you need any more, if you want any more things about it, or you want to, you have any questions, or anything that you would like to suggest, please comment on this video. I will be more than happy to help you or support you to the extent possible. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, this is what I wanted to cover in this video, guys. So thank you for watching, and then I will see you soon with the next video. Bye. And guys, if you like this video and if you think that this is really helping you, I'm going to upload lot many more videos, similar videos, right? And I have already created so many videos related to ETL testing, related to Unix, related to SQL, in detail SQL series, and Informatica testing, etc. Everything I have created. I mean, it's still in progress, but there are a lot of videos that you can watch on my channel, guys. All right, so please do subscribe it if you think that it is beneficial to you. And then until then, happy learning, guys. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.